Hello and welcome along to Football Life Stories, where we talk to people from our local area, all involved in football. And in this episode, we've got Hertford Town Chairman, Assistant Manager. It's Colin Hay. Colin, thanks for joining me.
Simon, how you doing? Nice to chat to you.
Yeah. It's been a while since I see you. That's the thing with off season, isn't it? You don't, you don't see all these people you used to see throughout the season.
Week in, week out. We did keep bumped. Obviously, I go and watch games as well, so we have bumped into each other an awful lot this season.
That's it.
Close season, I like. It's been a tough year for us, so I'm quite happy to be in relaxed mode at the minute and just chilled out. We certainly haven't been getting involved in the such and such is signed and such is signed. It's just there is nothing to sign. There is no forms. I know why sides do it, but we're just well and truly in a break mode at the minute. Ben's away as well, so I've been away. So, we're just chilling out.
That's it. And we'll come on to Hertford shortly. But first of all, I want to take you back when you was younger. How did you first get interested in football? What sparked your interest there?
I didn't have any choice, really. I've got three brothers and a sister. They're all older than me. Middle brother Mike was very good, played decent standard up in Scotland, and as long as I can remember, I was kicking the ball about. We used to go and watch his games. My older brother played as well, so just always been in and around football, really.
And did you play for a team yourself at all? Yeah.
Obviously, I started as a kid. I was quite lucky, really. Played. I think about under eights I would have started at, played for local teams. And then when I went to secondary school, my PE teacher was my brother Mike's best mate. I'm youngest by about nine years, so they're all a lot older than me. My brother's best mate was our PE teacher and ran the football team. Basically, I was playing the school football team and then district football team and then up to the north of Scotland. And so did the whole youth thing, really, playing. And then, with some successes with that, cup finals and some really good memories, friends that you make, I'm still friends with them now. And I laugh because obviously you had Bunyan on earlier, bless him. And I worked out, I think I'm 3 times the age of Jake. Yeah. So, this could go on a long while. I probably need to cut some of this down because my footballing career has been quite a few years worth. So it's 16. God knows why, but I up and left the northeast of Scotland and joined the police cadets in the Met. So came down and, that was 2 fantastic years at the Met and the cadets, which was just basically sport. It was just sport, and more sport. You did everything, you went through the season. I used to play a lot. I played cricket in Scotland, believe it or not. A lot of people think that you don't do cricket. I did cricket in Scotland. So cricket, summer was cricket season. Football was winter was football season. And 2 years of that. And then obviously joined the main police, 18 and a half. And, played police football was quite a thing when I was, the 80s I joined. Standard was brilliant, really good, every police station. I was lucky that the one I was at had about 200 and something people. And the choice of players was good. And then I stayed there for a few years, kept playing for them. Had a dabble with different places as well playing, and then really sort of career took over for a little bit, and then I fell back into it with the Met Police up at Bushy, who at the time were playing in the Hot Senior County. Could never get promoted because we didn't have the facilities there. Pitch was the best for miles around. It was a cracking football pitch. And so I started doing a bit there, and then literally, obviously, I'm knocking on the door 30 by then. So went into management. I kind of wasn't that keen. Got talked into it. Ended up doing their A team to start with, And then I had 3 sort of crazy years. I did the Met Police Bushy A team, and we won the league. So then the next year they asked me to do the reserves, and we won the league. So the following year I was running the first team, but with a really good mate of mine. And him and I, you know, on and off. We had a couple of years where we still stayed involved, but I got involved with the committee, and took a bit of a, we brought a couple of people in to run it. Didn't work out, so they stepped away, and we stepped back in again. And and then kids came along, and that was the end of football for me, really, in golf and life generally. Whilst they started growing up. Then from there, that was interesting, because obviously I'd always said in terms of management and playing that I would never do kids, never going to get involved in kids coaching. It scared the pants off me, didn't fancy it. But then, of course, when you end up with 2 boys, they're 14 months apart, both football mad, and then Kyle, he's the older one, his team basically had somebody running it, they dropped out. And it was like, well, who's going to run the team? And then he knows a bit about football. Didn't you used to run a side? And so then the next thing you know, you're in it, and did the coaching badges, and which I'd never done back before. It was never really a thing, in my era. It's only sort of in more recent years getting your badges and stuff has become a thing. So I did my badges, and then started running his team, and then. Fortunately for me, is obviously having joined the police at 18 and a half, it meant at 48 and a half, I could retire. So I did. I retired at 40, the year of the Olympics, 2012. And then just around that time, I was at St Mags with the boys. I'd run in their team. And found myself it was one of those bizarre youth team meetings where, we need somebody to be head of youth and take over. And it was, you all stood in a line, and, with the volunteer police take a step forward, and I stood still and everyone went backwards. So I found myself, lumbered's not fair, but I ended up doing the head of youth at St Mags for the best part of 5 years. Really enjoyed it. So did more than just running my team, which obviously I took all the way from under 8s right up to, folded it when they're under 17s. Should have gone the year before. We made a cup final at under 16s. I've got a couple of boys. One boy in particular is now playing professional football. We've done well. They were, some of the boys were off to play senior football. And then you get that sort of dilemma. I knew some of them were going, and I was chuffed because they were off to play adult football. But I was left with, I didn't know what I was left with. So I sort of sent out a message, right, who wants to carry on? And it was 10, which is kind of the worst. Not, if it had been 6 or 7, it was an easy decision for me. Right, we're folding. So 10, and that included my lad, and obviously Mark Sinfield, that used to run. That was at Hertford with us. His middle child played for us as well, and they were 2 of them. So I decided to carry on for another year. Terrible decision, because obviously now under 17s, and alcohol crept in, and girls crept in, and we got to just before Christmas, and literally we were showing up at games with 9 players, and I said enough's enough, and we folded it. But by that time, obviously, bless Max Mitchell, who's obviously just gone in at Welling, chuffed to Max and Tommy to get a chance there. But Max took me into getting more involved at St Mags, because I was on the committee, obviously, from the youth side of it. Got to know Max quite well, and he sort of persuaded me to come and help out in his management team with St Mags, and obviously we had quite a good year that year. We'd made the cup final. That was sat there waiting for us. I think we were in fifth or 6th spot, and I got this phone call from him saying, I'm off to Hertford. Do you want to come with me? I'd really like you to come. So obviously it's quite a difficult decision, but it was around about that time I knew my team wasn't going to keep going, and I decided to go with him over to Hertford, and in with Tommy. I didn't know Tommy Wade that well, but I kind of knew Tommy. So Tommy and Max were the managers, and what's his name? Mickey Nathan came with us, Tony Faulkner, and we had quite a nice little management team there for a few months, and then obviously the rest is history, as they say. Ben came in, and I kind of obviously I knew Mark really well, so I think the previous regime had told Tommy and Max that they weren't going to get the job, and that Ben had been given the job, and I think I was probably the first call the next morning from Mark saying, "Look, could I please stay on?" So so I chose to stay on, basically.
And you stayed on initially. You was chairman.
Well, yeah,
go on.
that's Hertford, I suppose. So initially, I stayed on just to do management, to be part of the management team, running the side. I think Ben was coming in to do more. He was interested in being much more involved with the club, bringing the academy down there. But yeah, Pete Malady was the previous chairman, and Alex Ward I knew as well, had been the chairman before that. And basically, Pete he was finding it difficult. Pete Malady, he still worked for EasyJet at the time, and he wasn't at a lot of the games. He found it difficult if he was flying abroad and things needed doing. So he stepped down completely out of the blue, through us all really. And bless Mark. Mark Mark asked me first would I do the secretary role. Now, bear in mind, I've done a bit of that when I was head of youth. So I'd said, absolutely not touching that with a barge pole. And so I had nothing of it. I thought, I've got rid of that one. And then he came back at me with, right, I've decided I'll do secretary then. So Mark did secretary the first couple of years. He said, but will you do chairman? So I really had nowhere to go after that one. He backed me into a corner. So he completely outflanked me. So the next thing I know, literally we haven't kicked a ball yet. That first season we came in, and Mark and I are supposedly the assistant managers with Ben as player manager, but now Mark's a secretary and I'm also the chairman. And then it got better, and then I started cutting the grass, and so I was the groundsman as well. Still am, and did all the kit as well.
No cutting the grass though.
No, it's quite nice now. I've got a nice little ride on. I've been there today, so I've got a bit of a glow about me being in the sun. But yeah, we still got to brush it. So it's lovely pitch, nice 3G pitch, but it still takes a bit of maintenance. So twice a week it needs a brush and a bit of a tidy up. So having been away last week, I was down there today. Spent the day down there.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the pitch. I mean, that was. I know that a lot of planning. Going into that, and that didn't get started till last July, and it hampered the start of your season a little bit last year, didn't it?
Oh, massively, Simon, massively. Yeah, and you can imagine the double whammy of it is that Ben. So it was really a double whammy because Mark obviously then had some personal problems, so Mark stepped away. So then it's sort of in terms of there's plenty of helpers, but in terms of running the club, it's sort of Ben and Vicky, his wife, does loads, and Chris, who's the treasurer, stayed on, and myself. So really, when it came to the pitch, we'd submitted all our bits and pieces in plenty of time, planning permission. We'd been consulting with, it was Velocity or one of the companies, that's who we went with. And we'd been engaging with them from probably about the August previous to the season. And just literally at the last minutes, COVID was a big part of it, is we had a glitch with our planning permission. And obviously Velocity, I think, got a little bit of a wobble and ended up going and doing Haybridge Swifts when they should have been doing us. So then we really have got a dilemma. We've sort of geared up to have the pitch ready for the start of the season. And then all of a sudden we know by the timings, we're definitely not going to be ready by the start of the season. So the first, that first 2-3 months of the season were incredibly stressful with one, getting the pitch done. So all the literally, being there on a daily basis and all the things that, creep up with a project like that. It's never easy. There's always things that crop up. But also then trying to run the first team. And I think Ben and I will both say we had a lot of distractions, and the start was terrible, absolutely awful start of the season. I'm always a bit tapered when I say that, because results-wise we had an awful start of the season, but I got fed up with managers saying you're the best side we've played so far. I mean, we really, I think we're 10 games in, and our goal difference was something like -11, -12. It was ridiculous. We were losing games by the smallest of margins. But it's the third season at it, so it's we're used to playing with a young team, and a lot of academy boys and that this year as well. We've been pleased with how that's gone, but you have to bite the bullet and know that will come with inexperience, mistakes, and really it is all part of the learning process. So, I guess it sounds bizarre, but we got 10 games in. I think we were sat bottom of the league. If not bottom, we were second bottom. And I think we just felt we were always quite positive that the way we were playing, we would turn a corner. We would, we would get ourselves out of it. And kind of, we had a little spell where we did do that. And then Christmas came and that really knocked us. Our little run at the start of January, if you look, our results were terrible. We had a terrible run, and without being, it's that balance of youth and experience. And I know if you look at our team sheets, that run, there was quite a few games we were playing with a back four with 3 of them at 17 years of age. And I think it was mainly Chris. I think Ben played one of the games in there. Chris had been injured, and we've had a difficult year with injuries as well. And then before you know it, it doesn't take much. Then you're right back in trouble again, which is really what happened to us. And then with 10 games to go, and Ben's job is to do the usual. We've taken it a game at a time. And the usual all the cliches that go with it. I was looking at the fixtures. And I realised, I thought, we have got a terrible run of games at the end. We were set to play, well, even at that time, I think it was looking, we're on a bit of a run. So I don't think they were top 6 at that time, but you could see the way they were going to be. And I think it was our last 5 games, clearly 3 of them were going to be against sides that were in playoff spots, which is not really, if you're looking at potential relegation, is not the sort of run of games you wanted to go into. But hey ho, we dug in and as you say, we're still here, we're still breathing.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, that you say about those games at the end of the season, Welling Garden City, who were there or thereabouts, knocking on the playoffs, beat them. North Lee, fantastic result against North Lee.
Yeah, North Lee away was probably. It's probably up there as one of our best performances of the season. We played really well against North Lee that day. 3-0. And bear in mind, I watched them play in the playoff final against Ware, and there were a shadow of that side that we played that day, and a lot of it was because we just stopped them playing. I was sat watching the playoff final, funny enough, against Ware, North Lee. And I'm sat there thinking, well, I know what we did and what worked, and I could see that Paul's boys just weren't getting around the sides, and I've listened to him since, and he recognised, he could see that they needed to get the ball down and get around the sides, and then get the crosses in. And on the day we played North Lee, we really caused them problems by doing that. Obi had a fantastic game that day, but so did Ben Wayman. So our 2 wide players really did cause them a lot of problems.
I think myself and Pete said we saw them play more towards the start. I think it was one of your early games.
It was, I think it may even have been one of the first. And
we said from then, that was the first time we'd seen them, and we said from then that they'll be there or thereabouts. Yeah. At the end of the season.
See, that was a bizarre game, Simon. Ben often talks about the North Lee game at home. We lost 4-0. And it's kind of this. It's a results business, but on that day we weren't a 4-0 worse side. In fact, we gave them a really good game that day. And funny enough, we were chatting to Eddie after the game at their place, their manager, and he was very nervous about the game against us because he knew that they'd beaten us 4-0, but actually it was a much closer game than that. And again, it's that you know, that inexperience of youth. Just literally, you felt like every time they went up, they scored, and they did the 4-0. But we couldn't put the ball in the net that day. But we played really, really well. Kept the ball, kept possession really well that day, and created chances and just didn't put the ball in the back of the net. And really, you know, that summed our season up really from start to finish, all the way through.
Yeah, you say about the youth and the inexperience. I mean, you've got players there, like you say. You've mentioned Ben Wayman, who's 50 plus games at the young age he is. Yeah. All the other players and the youngsters coming through from the academy as well. But how important is it to get that balance of the experience, like you mentioned?
Oh, it's hugely important, Simon. I mean, obviously Ben and I often chat to the fans, and it certainly wasn't his, Mark's, or I's intention from year one that we would come in and play as many youngsters as we have been playing. But obviously that first year with the chairman going, the club was in a financial mess. It really was in a poor state, and needed some urgent work with it. And really, I always say when COVID hit, it affected us far less than other teams because we already had been in a recession. We were already playing as though we were a club in recession. We didn't have the money to splash out on big players, and we had to use youth. So that first year in particular, we often spoke, before we started, we spoke about the sort of, we called it the 8-3, the 7-4. So in other words, 7 experienced players or 8 experienced players with 3/4 brought in. And actually we ended up the other way around. we literally were playing, a lot of times we were playing with 7 or 8 youngsters and 2 or 3, 4 maybe experienced players. And Ben Wayne's a really good example. He was playing back then. He played at 16, and that first season, he's played all the seasons through with us. His development's been a massive part of that. And with the 2 COVID seasons, I'd like to think that the first season, I think we were going to stay up. We looked okay. I think we were in 15th position when the first season got curtailed. And then the second one, we were doing all right. We were actually top. I think we were in the top 9th, 8th or 9th. I think when it got stopped. So actually, we came into this season really expecting to kick on, and then and didn't, which just shows you when you think you've cracked football, it will always come back and bite you. You've never cracked it. You're always. I mean, I'm certainly the wrong end of the 50s, rapidly approaching 60, and I'm still learning. You're always learning. Always. Anyone who doesn't think they're learning is a fool.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so obviously Ben's got his academy. A lot of the players, those youngsters, they come from academy, and I know he's got youngsters in the academy farmed out to other teams in the local area, hasn't he?
Yeah. There's a good few. I could go through heaps of them. There's a good few out there playing. Herbie has done really well. Was at London Colney. He moved to Hadley right at the end of the season. Herbie Townsend, and there's a few. James Collins, we brought him back with us at the end of the year because Buntingford had finished, so that's step 6, I think. But he was their leading goal scorer, doing really well. He's only 17, local lad. So it'll be a decision for us during the pre-season. Do we loan him out again? Do we get him playing week in, week out? Or is he ready to come in and join the first team and see if he can play for his place? So, but there's heaps of them all over the place. But let's say Buntingford had quite a few. We had some at Hertford Heath, London Colney when Jack Metcalf was there. We had a few there, quite a few there. So yeah, it's one of Ben's things with the boys. He's really keen that they come into him at 16, that he gets them playing adult football as quick as possible.
And I guess it's important for, like you say, for them to be playing week in, week out, rather than sat on the bench somewhere.
Yeah. You want them to get minutes under their belt. Sometimes it's a fine balance. Bobby Bolden has played for us this year. 16, came in at 16. He's done brilliantly, absolutely brilliantly. But what Ben and I recognise, it's what, again, learning. So the previous 2 seasons we've had is recognising when it's time to just actually bring them out, just take them out and give them a rest. And we've done that a couple of times this year with Bobby, and I think timing wise they've both been right. On one occasion, the first time he was actually playing okay, he was doing fine, and you thought, no, we just really need to look after him a little bit and give him a rest. And I think what a lot of people forget, fans can often forget, at 16, it's not just the physical side of it, it's the mental side of it. When you're playing in a step 4, any sort of level, step 5, 4, 3, it's all good level. The concentration side of it is immense. And he had a couple of games where perhaps to the naked eye you wouldn't actually associate goals as perhaps Bobby's fault, but actually you realised he just switched off, just a tiny little bit switched off. Physically, he's up there with anyone. He's as fit as anyone. But just gave him a couple of rests, and who say even he could move on this year. We'd love to see him go and play at high level. I think he's good enough, but we'll be more than happy to have him back if he doesn't get snapped up at a high level. So
that's it. I was just going to come to that, because that's the sort of like ethos that you want to build, isn't it? Progress these footballers, and I know there's been quite a few that have had trials elsewhere, isn't there? And some have gone elsewhere and signed.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't released Max yet, because I don't think it's done. I've kind of lost track because I was away all last week. But we brought Max Hudson in at left back. Josh Bryant was doing really well for us, but Josh got COVID, and then unfortunately after that, got glandular fever, which really did debilitate him, and he really found it difficult to come back. And that's football. So Max, he'd already played the odd game for us at 16, and then so he got his chance, and he came, and really this season is just he's made mistakes. Don't get me wrong, it's because he's 16, 17 now. He's definitely made mistakes, but there were some games he was just outstanding, absolutely. So we're really pleased. He looks highly likely that he's going to be going to Ipswich Town, and they're going to sign him. Well, they've been talking about it just before the close season, but I think it's highly likely that Max won't be with us next year, but he'll be a professional footballer at Ipswich Town, which is exactly the sort of ethos we've got at the club. We want to grow them through their academy. Get the best, get some good years out of them with us, and then move them on up the ladder.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I want to come back to the pitch quickly. So you've brought in like the youth teams.
Yeah,
so they're all trained down there. I know you've got girls team, and you've got Menina's training down there, and there is another team which we'll talk about in a minute. But how important is it to get all those youth teams down there, and all in one hub?
Yeah, it was massive. Obviously, imagine I was head of youth at St Mag's before it. So when I came over to Hertford, it was a glaring hole in the club's setup, really. That there was Hertford Town Youth, but there was absolutely nil connection between the club and the youth, Hertford Town Youth. No connection at all. So we knew that needed addressing. So and the pitch as well. It was twofold. One is the minute you do that, I've kind of locally always used Harlow and Ware as good examples of and I've seen it, they've had to learn. There's things that they've done well, and there's things you can see could do that better. And if you're shrewd, you sit back and you look at those and you think, right, take the best of that and actually learn from what didn't seem to go too well. So when I was at St Mag's, I was keen to try and push for a 3G pitch there, because I could see the benefits that would come with youth football, and indeed what then you become a community club. Now, there's lots of clubs around, I think, call themselves community clubs, but actually, without being harsh on them, what do you do for the community? What is your involvement with the community? And sometimes it's just lip service. So I was, Ben and I have always been mindful. We didn't want that. That's not what we're involved in at all. So, just literally by having the pitch laid, Meninas and Hertford Town Youth came on board with us. So not just training there, they play games there, obviously at the weekends, and that's best part of 600 kids suddenly involved with the football club. So you know, for me, then you're starting to become a community club. You are actually having an impact. You're having kids training at the club nights of the week. You know, so they're not out in the streets. They're actually got something useful. The big one that we thought it might happen, but we were pleasantly surprised, was our attendance, our matches. So you know, you get the youth on board, and you know, we were really keen to engage with them. Did they want to come be mascots? You know, we'd like to be ball boys. You know, that sort of engagement. And the youth really bit our hand off with that. And it sort of started slowly, but we've got to the stage. Obviously, we've never been out of the bottom 5 all year, I don't think, and yet we had the second highest attendances in the league. You know, and to be quite honest, nobody was catching Bedford because you know there were 1,000+ fans there some weeks, so we weren't getting anywhere near that. But to be second in the average attendances, we're really chuffed with that. And a big part of that was Hertford's always had a really good fan base, always has. But what's been nice as well is we've grown some new fans ourselves, and you know, with perhaps a bit more of a successful season, that's only going to get better, you know. And you know, we'd like to see attendance. If we can get a good season going this year, we'll build on what we achieved this last season just gone.
Yeah, I think obviously your attendances have gone up really well, and you know, a lot of teams have found their attendances going up as well. Do you think that's because COVID? Do you think that's had an impact on it, and perhaps maybe even, you know, with all the, was it the Super League things and the fallout of that, you know, fans just got fed up of, you know, the Premier League football and going to support their local teams?
Yeah, I think it may even just have been more simplistic than that, Simon. Is that, you know, we know what we know about COVID now. So you know, all of us are much further on with it. But there was a period of time when it was very frightening, you know, and you know, the option of going to you know, a Premier game, a Championship game, and sitting with 40, 50, 60,000 people, or nipping down to your local club where there might be 200, 300 at most. And, you know, you and I will both know that's quite a lot for a ground, but actually when you're all spaced around the ground, you know, you don't feel like you're cramped. You do, you know, if you felt a bit unsafe, you could literally walk 5 or 6 yards and be certainly well within your social distancing. And I think that's what happened. I think COVID, you know, has had that impact on non-league football. I've seen it with the golf course. I mean, I think we've spoken before. I work at a golf course, and you know, just the sort of COVID and post-COVID, most courses were all reporting increases in membership, people getting back into golf, and golf was one of the early ones where the government allowed you out. You could play in pairs, and you know, by the nature of it, it's outdoors, walking around. So I think football's in the same there. Non-league football, should I say, is in the same remit there. Now, the challenge, I think, is to retain those people. Is not to lose them back to, you know, the Premiership sides, or certainly make it a case of, you know, if they are a Premiership or Championship, or, you know, Div 1, Div 2, that when their side are away, you know, and 600 miles away or 500 miles away, then that Saturday they pop down to us and come and watch a game at us. And I think that's a challenge for all non-league clubs, is to try and keep hold of these fans that we've managed to acquire.
Yeah, I mean, we see it quite often that, you know, if perhaps you've got an away game, then some of the fans might turn up at Ware or Welling Garden City, and you know, vice versa as well. So I think sometimes it's just a case of people wanting to get their fix of football, and also it's the affordability. So I mean, who can afford, you know, 60, 70, 80 quid just for a ticket to go and, you know, watch a Premier League game with other costs on top, when you can get into, you know, yourselves for a tenner, and you know, it's a no-brainer for me, really. Yeah. But so as I said, there is another team that's going to be using your training pitch as well. A new team, Halfton Town Women.
Yes, yeah, looking forward to it. So yes, again, it's more Ben's baby. I think Ben's got an ideal vision. He's always had a plan, you know, in terms of the club and where he'd like to go, the club to go, and girls football, women's football has always been part of that, always in there. And I think, you know, in the ideal world, we would end up with, yes, we'd end up with Hertford Town Women, which we're going to have next season, but we would also have an academy section. So as well as the boys that he's got at the moment, we would have girls, elite girls at the academy. So then you can see the pathways there, you know, Meninas into the academy and then into Hertford Town ladies or women team, should I say. So, you know, it's a growing market there, and it's fantastic to see. We had it's sad because I think Tom had to cancel his camp last week, but we'd had them up for the half term. So February was it? I think the half term, and I think with nearly 50 girls from literally, you know, I daren't think what the youngest one. They looked about 5 to me. You know, up to sort of 12, 13-year-olds. And it was brilliant. It's really good to see, using the pitch, using the classroom, which hopefully is done now, but wasn't quite done then, and the bar. And again, you know, just another use of the facility in, you know, days where probably you really, until the night when we train on it, you wouldn't have seen a soul. So, you know, it's again, and that's just getting back to being a community club. It's part of it is offering you know, the facility to different groups. You know, we've still got our inclusive team. We've always had an inclusive team at Harvard, and you know, it's fantastic to see them there now every Saturday morning. This year they've ended up, they were playing their matches with Middlesex FA. So I haven't had the chat with Lucas yet. I know Lucas, I think, was keen to come back to Hertford and Hertfordshire and be involved with the local leagues again. So hopefully, you know, that's the direction we'll go. But again, it's Lucas is running our inclusive again, so that's one for him really as to where they're going to play their matches. But you know, it's great to see. It's great to see the facility being used.
Yeah. I mean, with the women. Have you had that conversation as to what division you're going into yet? I'm guessing you're going into the Beds and Hearts.
Yeah, I had a little chat with Tom before I went up to Scotland, and he wasn't really sure himself. And then of course we suddenly realised we had this mad rush because they had to enter the FA Cup, the Women's FA Cup, and it was, oh God, and of course there's the administrative side from that as well. So yeah, and being away last week, most of that was done when I wasn't here, so I'm not quite sure where exactly they're going to go. Obviously, fortunately, Tom, he's under 16s with Meninas, who I think are the County Cup champions this year. Obviously, now next year we'll all be eligible to play for Hertford Town Women. So you know, he's certainly, when I you know, it's quite a challenge setting up a new team. But he was fairly confident that you know, he's going to be able to get plenty of players, and you know, good luck to him.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned about the training room. Obviously, you've had the pitch done, you've had the dugouts. Has there been any other work going on during the closed season, or is there going to be? Yeah,
no, the classroom is done. So finally that's all finished. I mean, the only thing is connecting the power. Which, you know, the classroom has just been a saga and a half for us. If you imagine the weekend that the bulldozers rolled in to do the pitch, to start work on the pitch, was the same weekend as we had the initial structure of the classroom delivered. Oh. So we have just had one problem after the other, after another. To the point where, you know, we just didn't get it finished. It wasn't done by the end of the year. So the beauty is next year we'll roll into next year with it available. That's an interesting one in itself. So obviously it's fantastic for the academy. So it's brilliant. You know, that they've had a difficult year with doing the football at the club, but then having to bus, walk, sometimes or you know, run up to the school to do their lessons, and then sometimes they were back down for a match, or vice versa. They started at the school and then had to come down and then had to go back. So there's been a lot of to-ing and fro-ing. So for them to be able to do the education on site as well next year is going to be fantastic, really helpful. It's got a nice little office with it, soundproof office. I mean, it's daft as it seems. Vicky and Ben really haven't got an office for running the academy side of it. So, you know, that's going to be brilliant for them moving forward. The big dilemma, I don't know if you're aware, Simon, but somehow we've managed to win the Respect Award for the division. So right. We've come top of the Respect Award, which is obviously your hospitality. You know, there's a whole range of things you get scored on for it. So I'm off to the league AGM and presentation this weekend to pick up the trophy for that. Now, obviously, you know, you've met Susie and Brian and Sheila and John, who predominantly, my wife's done it a little bit. Vicky's done the boardroom, and they're a bit reluctant to move out of our little boardroom that you know well. And again, it's a bit of a dilemma because we've got the soft chairs in there. It is quite cozy, but you know, with certainly the ladies in particular have been fantastic in there, Susie and Sheila in particular, and they're a bit reluctant to go into the classroom because that was the original plan, was we would use the classroom for boardroom for hospitality on match days. I can't really promise you where you'll be when you come to us next time. It may well be that we're going to do a bit of paint and decorating in there. So it may well be that we actually leave the hospitality. I think the honest answer for me is when we know opposition are bringing quite a lot of committee members, and you know you're going to have the officials as well, maybe you guys are there, then I think we probably will need to go to the classroom because there's a bit more room. But when you know you're dealing with smaller numbers, you know, you might find there's only 2 or 3 or 4 from the committee, and then the refs, and it is quite nice in there. It's quite comfortable, and obviously having won the sort of Respect Trophy, then we'll have to think long and hard about, is it the right thing to do to move? So yeah. So other than that, we've got touch wood, the car park should start on Monday. So we're literally just waiting for the last bit of funding to be approved, and you know, the ground workers are all teed up. They would have liked to have started this week, and obviously we're just a bit reluctant because the money's not quite in the bank yet. So ideally we'll have the front car park done, and then if you imagine, as you look at the entrance to where we come in, to the left there's a gate. Well, there's another car park around the back there, so we're going to have all of that done. You probably noticed we're a little bit of a problem. It's learning as you go along. We've had a few people with the pitch, so Velocity keeps sending us people to come down and look at our pitch because they want to see what the surface is like. And certainly one of the things I think that we learned from it is we didn't have, so the railings we've got were only put in 4 or 5 years ago, 6 years ago. They're in quite good condition, so it was quite a lot of money to be saved by not doing that. The concreting around the pitch is all quite good, so we didn't have that done. But the problem it left us with is the goals we've got don't go out of the current gates that we've got, and actually there's nowhere obvious for us to store those goals. So you know, bless our subs this year, and really, and actually the whole squad is of a Saturday or a night game. The first thing normally is getting them in early, and then, right, can you move the goals? So we've been lifting the goals over the fence. So so that's one of the things that we're going to put right before we start next season, is we'll be able to, you know, easily push the goals off the pitch, have a nice area to store them, very similar to what Ware have got. Barking had a really good area that I've been and looked at. So that's high on our list to get done. Ground grading we've just passed, so we got through the ground grading, you know, obviously, which ended up being a bit of a topical issue with Welling's problems. So we were happy. You know, I know the day they came and visited us, and then did Welling after us. They were going straight to Welling from us. So, you know, when Welling had all those challenges that they've had, we were just over the moon that we'd managed to get some of the bits and pieces that we need. I mean, when they came to do us initially, obviously we were still a building site. Literally, the pitch was laid, but everything, we hadn't started games, and it was a building site. So they sort of said, look, you know, they were really kind. They came in, they did a provisional walk round and gave us some ideas of things that may be a problem when they did the inspection. So you know, you've probably seen we've got a fantastic gang of volunteers at the club. So we literally spent all winter just beavering away, getting little bits and pieces done. And before you know it, you know, if you start with small things, before you know it, you've achieved quite a lot. And
Yeah.
and we sailed through our ground rain when they came back. So yeah, so that's the two main ones. Clubhouse is still going to be there for a little bit, I think. So I think a big part of this year is Ben and I have chatted. We kind of would like a year off, if you know what I mean. Just have a year of focusing on just football, focusing on trying to get some success at the club, you know, and build the fan base and just have less stress than we did last year, and kind of, for want of a better word, just have a bit of a year off. Don't get me wrong, there's always stuff we're doing, always painting and decorating. When the roof done as well, so we've got a leaky roof at the minute that, as you may know from the press box, we haven't had a press box because it leaks in there, and then that leaks down into the hallway of the change room. So we're getting all of that put right as well, probably from next week or the week after. But other than that, I think we'll be taking it. We'll be having a bit of a feet up season and taking it a bit easier on the actual infrastructure.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you there. I mean, I know how much work has gone in and how much work you do, and Ben and Vicky, and you know, everyone does. You know, you're always down there, as you were saying earlier. So I think you do deserve that year off. And I say, you know, congratulations on the Respect Award. And I can completely understand why you've won that. You know, we always get a nice warm welcome, especially in that, as you say, nice cozy boardroom. You know, a nice cup of tea, a donut at half time, and things like that. It's great. So thanks to you and everyone for, you know, how welcome you make us feel. Now I'll move on quickly. I know you said you're having a bit of time off. You know, you've been away, Ben's away. When do you sit down with Ben and perhaps start making some plans for the footballing side of things next season?
I mean, to be fair, or Ben in particular, had a one-to-one session with every player before we finished. So he had a long chat with a lot of the players, well, all of the players, every single one of them at the end. We'll be interested to make some new signings this year. But you know, I'm not in a position to talk about any of those at the minute. It's all very formative. We're coming in for pre-season. I think 1st of July we'll start. We've got some games all set up. We're just minus one date at the minute, and then once we have it, we'll publish it, send it out. The beauty, of course, we've had three seasons, Simon, of beg, borrowing, and stealing facilities to use for pre-season friendlies, whereas now, obviously, that isn't going to be a problem for us. In fact, the problem has been that obviously for our development, we want some grass pitch games, just so that we don't go into the season only having played on a fantastic 3G surface. We need to, you know, you need some grass pitches. So we're waiting on one of those at the minute, and that's the last one. Once we've got those, we've got a full pre-season schedule done. Yeah, Ben's back in a week. I think it's a week. I think it's a week tomorrow. He comes back. It might be Wednesday. Yeah, no, was it Thursday? It's about a week he's away, and he'll be back. And then, as I say, we'll get started work, and then the real hard work starts weekend of. I think the Friday is the 1st. Saturday's the 2nd of July. I could be wrong on that. It's that weekend we're going to start.
Yeah, Friday's the 1st. Yeah.
So that's when we're gonna look to start. We haven't penciled in the game that weekend. I think we wanted to just get back in, get some faces in, and then I think we've got one on the Tuesday that week. So
well, that was my next question. Is there any pre-season friendlies you can tell us about? But like you said, you know, you'll publish that once you get sorted.
It literally is imminent, Simon. We're waiting for one, and then we'll publish. I mean, some of our opposition have already published theirs, so every time
I've seen one, yeah.
You know, I think Hartman popped one up, and Northwood we've got as well. I think they indicated that we were one of their friendlies. So yes, there's some good ones in there. So you know, it's a sort of real mixed bag of games. So And then, you know, this year we really want to. We've got a terrible form on FA Cup, so we would really like you know, a better run than we have had in the FA Cup, and we couldn't have had a better chance than last year, and blew it. You know, had things gone differently, we'd have ended up with 2 Step 5 clubs to start with, and then a half reasonable game after that as well, and went out first game. You know, so that's something this year we really want to be. You know, hit the ground running early on. There's some suggestion that I think it's Dave, our secretary, or it might be Chris, has told me that because of our league position, it's highly likely that we'll get a FA Cup tie on the 6th of August, the extra preliminary round. If you're aware of copped it the last 2 years because it was done on a ballot basis. And I think there's a suggestion that this season it will be done on league position basis. So the bottom X amount of teams will play in the extra preliminary round, which I would suggest we're definitely going to be in that, I would think. So we're kind of gearing up, although there's no draw or anything done yet. We're sort of gearing up for probably having to start on the 6th of August.
Okay. And obviously fixtures are, you know, will be out soon. I guess they'll be out in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, the AGM's on Saturday. So the league AGM is on Saturday. I haven't heard, obviously, you know, with the Cirencester and the Highworth, is it? You know, I haven't heard anything to suggest that they are appealing. You know, you know, I would have thought we would have heard something if they had intended to appeal. So as I see it at the minute, I think the list that's published is probably what we're going to end up with, and that will be the constitution on Saturday morning that will be voted in.
Yeah, as you know, a couple of long trips there. But what I do want to ask you is, you know, like you say, you know, you'll sit down with Ben, have a conversation, perhaps bring 1 or 2 players in. How important when you're looking to do that is for them to buy into the ethos of, you know, the way you want to play, and you know, with their like personality and behaviour as well. How do you look into that? Do you contact other managers and ask them if they might know them, or? No,
well, we'll do a bit of due diligence. That would be remiss of us to not do that. But, you know, sort of non-league world is fairly small. You know, it really is. And I think, you know, there's enough lads out there that have been caught out by it and not realised just how small a world it is. And you know, the managers do talk. You know, we were unfortunate last year. You know, we didn't have the facilities to scout all our opposition. And, you know, and we, you know, Ben and I have got 3 or 4 good contacts out there that we will chat to the other managers, especially if we know that they've just played them the week before and we're then due to play them. You know, we'll get on the phone and have a chat with them that way. I think this year we're looking to, I think we've got a young lad coming on board with us who will go and do some coaching, some scouting for us at games. And give us a bit of a feedback on opposition and how they play, etc. But no, I mean the club ethos and behaviour is massive for us. You can imagine, you know, the background I've got in particular, and Ben is, you know, certainly from the you know, the school of cleaning boots as a young scholar, and you know, behaviour is everything. And it's, you know, it's important for us. You know, the beauty for me, I often, I'll bring the kit. So when we go to games, I normally bring the kit and I might lay it out. But certainly at the end of the game, you know, I'm told to I go and do my bit in the boardroom then as the chairman. And generally, you know, every time I come back, we have a spotless dressing room at away games and home games, because the lads do it. It's just accepted that they will do it. Chris Gosling has been fantastic this year. As our captain, you know, and you know, he's at the front leading and making sure that things are all tidied up, and the behaviour and you know, of our players again is a big part of our respect award. You know, that was a big part of it as well. It's not just the hospitality. You know, the pitch is another one. So obviously we're always going to score quite well on that. But it is, you know, things like, you know, the behaviour of the players on the pitch, the behaviour of the dugouts. So it's a, you know, the behaviour of the dugout's a massive one for me. You know, I've been at clubs where I've seen you know, what for me is just poor. And you know, certainly we will set a different standard in the dugout. And you know, I'm not one of the shouting and screaming brigade referees. I think you probably hear me. When you do hear me, it's normally quite good. But generally, I'm quite quiet. I tend to let them to just get on with it.
So Chris Goslin is your Mark Noble, is he?
He is, absolutely, and he's not the only one. There's a few of them. Luke Mewett, fantastic. Bunyan last year, I remember seeing Bunyan a couple of times out with the brush, you know, and you know, and a lot of our boys, you know, Jake's got a good pedigree from where he's, you know, where he's been and what he's, you know, as a scholar and a youth player, you know, and you know, that if they go into any higher league club, that is the expectations that those clubs will have. So it's just as important that if they're going to come and play for us, that they need to behave in the same way. So
I mean, Jake told me he was the one that was always asked to clean the gyms because he made such a good job of it. So there you go. He's fantastic.
Yeah. No, he's done his bit there as well. Bless him. You know.
Right. I'm going to move on to quick fire questions before we finish. So, which team do you support?
Chelsea.
Chelsea. Scottish team you support at all?
Yeah, it was Rangers. I think it's a blue thing. There might be a blue thing going on here. You probably hadn't picked up on the fact either that Hertford had white socks this year. There's one or two did pick up on it.
I don't think I did.
Funny enough, blue socks, blue shorts, and white socks. I wonder who wears
that. That's your influence, is it?
Keep it quiet though.
Have you got any pets?
No, none at all. No? 2 kids. They drive us mad. Yeah.
Pepsi or Coke?
Coke.
Tea or coffee?
Difficult one. That different depends on the time of day. I've cut down on coffee. I have, but I do like a latte. But yeah, I both. It's a real tough one.
All right. Post-match drink?
Normally a cup of tea. I know that sounds bizarre, but I'll normally go in and Susie, I've got my own little cup. I know it's bonkers, isn't it? And as soon as I come in the old boardroom at the end, Susie will normally do me a cup of tea. Or if we're away from home, then I normally ask for a cup of tea there as well. Yeah, how boring.
Okay. Ronaldo or Messi?
Tough one. It's Messi for me. I've got only just. I just think it's more natural talent, Messi.
What about your favourite player when you was growing up?
Oh, so, you know, this is where it gets embarrassing because obviously you had Bunyan on here, and it's, you know, there'll be names that people have heard of. Mine was Billy Bremner. Do you remember Billy Bremner? Leeds.
Of course, yeah.
Good Scotsman, obviously, as well. And another one, sort of something that really stuck in my mind as a youngster was Archie Gemmill. And his 1978 goal against Holland. I don't know if you remember it. Skipped past the forward line, dinked it over the keeper. And yeah, I was with my whole family that night. We watched a game at my sister's in London, funny enough. And yeah, I've got good memories of that night.
Okay. You have obviously, you know, being assistant manager and like chairman and stuff, do you have a pre-match routine that you kind of do?
Yeah, I quite a lot, because obviously I sort the kit out as well. So I need to be fairly organised on match day. We give the boys fruit as well. We normally have like a fruit basket, and and actually the headline is Ben's mortified, but we normally have a box of sweets as well, which the subs normally demolish by half time. But you know, we found the culprit for that now, so that's got a bit better now. But yeah, so no, I'm normally quite organised match day, because you know, there's a number of things, you know yourself. There's a number of things need doing for so especially home games. Particularly home games, there's lots of things need doing and have got to be right for the game to take place.
Earliest football memory?
Oh, it was probably watching my brother Mike. No, it would be watching some of his games, going to see him play. I mean, he ended up he didn't make it as a pro, but he was quite a clever lad. So he worked for Shell, but he went to Canada. And I remember going over when I was younger. you know, what I've been about 13, 14. And we went over there, and he was playing for Toronto. So he was playing as a semi-pro for Toronto, and that was decent standard. The stadiums were quite full. So I remember watching him as well when we went out there. Yeah, probably be my brother, bless him.
What about your favourite moment in football?
I don't talk about it very often. I scored with my left foot once, which isn't the headline. It was at Wembley.
Right. Oh, wow. Okay.
Actually scored at Wembley on the hallowed turf. I was playing for the Met at the time. We were playing against the Civil Service and played a cup final there. And I remember it was Chris Ramsey. You know, Chris Ramsey used to be at Spurs. And his younger brother played with us. And he scored a worldie from about 30 yards. Our goalkeeper at the time was a guy called Trevor Turnbull. He saved the penalty. And I scored one with my left foot. And yeah, I'm afraid there isn't anything is ever going to top that. I think there was probably, I doubt if there was 5,000 there that day, but it felt like there was 50,000 as you went off to celebrate. I did my shearer off with one arm up in the air, bless. But yeah, I didn't get many with my left foot. I was very right-footed.
Yeah. Oh, excellent. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. I know you touched on this earlier. Any other sports that you play?
Golf. Obviously, golf's my main one now. Remember, obviously, I work at Essendon, so I play all my golf at Essendon Country Club. Know quite a few of the. It's a good source of information for the old non-league. So there's quite a few of the non-league players who will play there at the minute. I see Scully quite regularly, who is just signed for or stayed at Walthamstow today. I see Connor Scully. So good luck to him. I'll still get me little snippets of info from him up at the golf club. And obviously, younger days, the police. You never went to a police station that didn't have a snooker table, and I used to play a lot of snooker. And as a kid, I'd had a pool table as well. I used to have a pool table in my bedroom. I was very lucky. And I was a bit of a hustler for many a year at pool and snooker.
Okay. What's your handicap for golf?
Well, it should be 14, but the handicapping system at the minute is moved to what they call the world handicapping system. So somehow, over the last 3 competitions I've played, I've gone up to 16 now. So I've gone in the wrong direction. But I think it's done very differently now, and probably some of my better rounds that I had last year are dropping off, and I haven't played as much because of obviously the football club this year. So I don't think I've got a decent round of golf in me this year. But come the summer's here now. I'm hoping to put that right.
That's it. And you've got those couple of extra shots to play with as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there'll be a few bob to be earned this summer.
You'll be called a bandit. Final question. When you came into Hertford, I know some of the lads done initiation songs. Did you have to do one at all?
Hertford, no, I haven't. No, Hertford, I haven't. Hertford's about the only place I haven't.
So what would you be your go-to song?
Oh, got a few, Simon. Got a few. Minnie the Moocher. In fact, I let myself down with Minnie the Moocher at St Mags. Who did we play? We were away from home. Stanway Rovers, I remember it. And I had the kit and got there late. So I was incredibly stressed. But I knew I was doing an initiation song. So I thought, I'll just do Minnie the Moocher, tried and tested, and forgot the words. Which is not good. So that was a bit of a blowout. What else do I do? Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, do quite a good one of those, and obviously Sweet Caroline. Been around football too long, mate.
Well, Colin, it's been fantastic seeing you, mate, and catching up. And won't be long, another month or so, and I'll be seeing you down at. Is it the Lomo Bar and Grill still?
Oh, good question.
Ooh.
I think so. Still is at the minute, but we're in negotiations, shall we say? So that was.
I'll see you at Hartlebury Park and go from there.
There's a couple of headlines to come. Nothing isn't signed up yet, so I'm still loath to announce it. But there may be a ground share coming as well. So another ground share coming as well. So yeah, there's lots going on in the background. and by next week we'll start announcing plenty of things, and you guys will be the first to know.
Excellent. Well, Colin, thanks very much for joining me, mate, and I'll see you soon.
No, thanks, Simon, and Pete. Obviously, if he's listening, thanks for all you've done this year. It's always fantastic having you down at the ground, and yeah, you both know you're always welcome.
Lovely. Thanks very much, mate. It's always our pleasure, mate.
All right, mate. Lovely. Cheers now.
Cheers.
Thanks for having me. Cheers.